And welcome to the second half of my favorite Pokemon type for grass. This portion of the episode is exclusive to Patreon. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, and without further ado, let's get into this very green, I guess, list of Pokemon. So, the first Pokemon is Shroomish and Breloom. Now, I'm going to keep them together because they're of the same evolutionary line, and I just don't feel like putting them as separate species makes sense, or even talking about them individually. So I picked up a Shroomish in the Petalburg Woods, and I was pretty happy to have a grass type because I knew the first gym leader, Roxanne, used rock types, and my little Torchic probably wasn't gonna, cut it against Roxanne. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, look at that sour face. Ooh. And I just looked at it, I was like, he looks grumpy as all hell. He's joining my team. That's exactly how I made my choice. Like, no lie. So Shroomish joins my team, and, Torchic, obviously it evolves into Combusken, and it's a fighting type. And then when Shroomish evolves and it becomes a fighting type into Breloom, it was like, uh-oh, there's a rivalry going on here. But I had to eventually remove it from my team for another Pokemon that's on this list, but I will get to that in a moment. I did go back to Breloom, and Breloom is pretty awesome with moves like Mach Punch, Sky Uppercut, Mega Drain, and then later generations Drain Punch. Yeah, it's a pretty solid Pokemon, but then as we go further along, it gets Poison Heal. That really changes a lot of things, because with Poison Heal, you can have it hold a Toxic Orb, and then you have it use Facade. Breloom may not have the best stats, but its attack is really great. So that Facade being doubled in power to 140, and then its health is regenerating every turn, and it has access to Leech Seed. Oh yeah, Breloom can keep getting back a lot of its health, and then even if you do take some damage with access to moves like Mega Drain and Drain Punch, Breloom can be a hell of a fighter just for the fact that it's poisoned and he can keep its health going. Plus, with that poison in there, it's not likely to get any other status moves, and if it lands on a Toxic Spikes, all the better. Yeah, plus I kind of like that it was like a boxing kangaroo. That's how I looked at it. That was also one of the reasons I like Kangaskhan. But Breloom kind of reminded me of, like I said, a boxing kangaroo, and I thought that was pretty cool. So going into Gen 4, I read that Chimchar was going to evolve and become a fighting type, and I was just like, I just had that experience with Blaziken, and I saw, then there's the penguin. Oh, but Turtwig, I like turtles, and there's Turtwig, so this feels right. Having Turtwig and then he evolves into Groudon, I was like, oh, but it looks armored, so that's pretty cool. And then Torterra, the continent Pokemon, and it just has that big tree on it and then all those spikes. I was like, oh, wow, this thing's pretty cool. And it became a ground type for whatever reason, which didn't quite seem like that was a smart move to me, because it was like, why do you need to be grass and ground? But whatever. I enjoyed using it with powerful moves like Leaf Storm, which I didn't care that it lowered its special attack because that was the only special attack move that I had it learn. And Woodhammer, which had recoil, so I made sure to give it keep that Mega Drain that it had, and then it knew Crunch. But then I was like, well, maybe I should have it learn Earthquake too. So I got rid of Crunch for Earthquake. I felt it was just too specialized on what it does, but then again, that's okay because you get two different stab moves in two different ways. I really didn't think about the special and physical split that happened in Gen 4. I just really liked using this Pokemon, and I enjoyed using, having this viable turtle Pokemon finally that isn't like a water type. It's this grass type, but it's a turtle. What is that? There are some, I guess there are some turtles that do live on land more so than in water, but I don't think, these Pokemon would have a problem with being in the water because they're grass types. I actually kind of thought maybe they were going to turn into dinosaurs, because Groudon has that look to it, but even so, and plus, Groudals actually can produce nuts which other Pokemon feed off of, So again, like there's just a lot going on with this Pokemon, and there's just so much like coolness, according to me, to it. So, and I kind of pictured myself riding it around just a little bit, like, because you could probably lay on its back and it wouldn't mind you at all, even though it's probably not the fastest commute, but you gotta figure you get the shade from the tree too, so that's amazing. And unlike with, say, a Rapidash, you wouldn't get burned accidentally from its mane if it got ticked off at you. So yeah, like, that's just how I pictured it. Sunflora for Gen 2, when it was like revealed as a Pokemon, I was like, oh, a sunflower Pokemon. I actually had sunflowers like in the backyard when I was a kid, so I was kind of looking forward to using Sunflora. Sunflora, it was a little bit difficult to use because I kept trying to level up Sunkern, its pre-evolved form, and Sunkern kind of is poopy. But Sunflora, when the evolution, it just gets all these stats, and it's pretty amazing. Now, they showed that, like, Sunfloras, when they go to sleep, like, the petals close in on their face, and then when they're awake, it opens up. Sunflora, like, is a completely different Pokemon from Sunkern. Like, the difference is, like, night and day. I kind of wish Sunflora had gotten an Alolan form, but that's okay, because Sunflora is good all on its own. With that solar power ability, like, it gets more power from the sun, and it's Sunflora, get it? Ha 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 ha. Also, it learns Leaf Blade, and later generations it gets access to Razor Leaf. Like, because Sunflora and Sunkern have two different move pools, you really can time when these Pokemon evolve. So if you level up Sunkern to a high enough level, it'll learn Giga Drain, and then have it evolve in Sunflora, and now Sunflora has a really cool recovery move. It also has access to Ingrain, which I didn't realize meant that Sunflora had to stay in battle until the battle was over or it fainted. So I learned a little bit of a lesson there. I should have learned that lesson with Cacturne, but with Cacturne it was in the battle tower, so I would prefer to not switch out if I didn't have to. So yeah, Sunflora helped me learn something too. So in Gen 3, as I talked about with Breloom, when I got Tropius and saw that it was a grass flying type, I actually removed Swellow and Breloom from my party because it pretty much filled in the slots for both of those Pokemon. And Tropius is a pretty good fighter. Like, for a standalone Pokemon with no pre-evolution or further evolution, Tropius is pretty strong. It has access to moves like Air Slash, Leaf Blade, Razor Leaf, Magical Leaf, which never misses, which is pretty cool, Body Slam, and Solar Beam. So Tropius can be really useful, and I'm sure there's other moves too that it has that I'm completely forgetting about. But it can also use Fly as well, which, you know, you get that turn where you're not going to take any damage, provided Tropius can get into the air fast enough. But its ability Chlorophyll, and you team it up with Groudon, as I did in Gen 3 for double battles, that was amazing. You could have, like, Groudon, like, just set off as many earthquakes as possible, and Tropius' speed doubles in sunlight, and you can just have it, like, launch off as many solar beams as you pleased. Oh yes, I enjoyed using Tropius quite a bit, but I just looked at it, and then in the Pokedex, like, I thought it was pretty cool that it had a banana beard. I don't know why I thought that was, like, such a cool thing, but in the Pokedex it says that that fruit, right, they don't want to call it bananas because then that would kind of contradict the Nanab berry, which is pink bananas. Yeah, but children in, like, southern regions, I'm pretty sure Hoenn is a southern region, but would eat that fruit, and I was like, oh, it's a kid-friendly Pokemon. That's pretty cool. Now, the next one I kind of came into a little late. Pansage and Simisage. So Pansage and Simisage, they're pretty cool. Like, they're broccoli. I was pretty impressed with the fact that they were able to make broccoli for Pansage and then broccoli Rob for Simisage into a Pokemon. And I kind of feel like, you know, of the three monkeys, this is the one that stands out the most and is probably one of the better of the three, because it's green, of course. With moves like Acrobatics, Seed Bomb, and it has access to a few punch moves. I'm sure I'm drawing a blank, but I really like. I just look at this Pokemon. This is one of those Pokemon that I like for its appearance. Like it's got a Broccoli Rob Pompadour. How can you not like a Pokemon that has a Broccoli Rob Pompadour? And it just looks better than the other ones. I mean, I know Simisear can look really cool when it's not in that weird pose that they have for its default art, but even so, like, come on. Like Pansage and then Simisear in particular kind of look like the nice little innocent child that becomes like a gangbanger. It's pretty cool. Finally on the list is probably one of my newest favorite grass Pokemon, and that is of course Rowlet, Dartrix, Decidueye, that family tree. When I saw, the minute I saw Rowlet, I just liked it. Like, it stood out compared to the other two starters from Gen 3. I know a lot of people were like, ooh, the black cat, and oh, there's the Popplio hate, but enough about that. And I think everyone looked at Rowlet and thought, that's a pretty cool looking Pokemon. And then Dartrix was cool too, and when it evolves into Decidueye and becomes the awesome archer, which, it's kind of weird that it becomes an archer, because how do you go from having like the cute little bow tie to looking like a butler to an archer? Like, that almost feels like some Digimon action right there. But then Decidueye has that awesome move, Spirit Shackle, in which it fires a ghost arrow at the opponent and then they can't escape. And then with its signature Z move, I can't think of the name. Sinister Arrow Raid. There we go. Sinister Arrow Raid is awesome. So Decidueye flies into the air, creates a bunch of arrows, then dive bombs into its opponent with those arrows, creating a giant ghost explosion. I kind of would have liked it though if the starter's Z moves were, I don't know, dual type moves, kind of like how Flying Press is a dual type move. That would have been really awesome if like it went that way, but unfortunately no, it didn't quite go that way, and that was a little sad for me. But even still, like, that was it's one of the cooler sequences for the Z moves. Going with the archer thing though, like, it's wearing that hood, it's got that cowl, and apparently the ghost owl, like it's a white owl, is something that's native to Hawaii. So it's not so unheard, like it's not so weird that it goes from grass flying to grass ghost, because it's a ghost owl. And I did have a lot of fun with Decidueye. It was my catcher for a while because it could learn False Swipe. With like Leaf Bleed, it was like, even though it could, you know, get the opponent at long range with like its arrows, it had like the sword to defend itself. I don't know, like I said, it's just one of those Pokemon that you look at, you like it, and in this case, it's actually a decent enough Pokemon where it's not just, you know, pretty eye candy for, you know, a Poke nerd, if you will. But that's it for the list. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you check out my channel and subscribe. I hope that you continue to support the channel. And thank you so much for watching. Make sure to, you know, check out my Pokemon Sun playthrough, where you'll see Decidueye and all of its glorious action, and you'll see me try to destroy the Alolan region and become its truest and ultimate champion. And again, thank you for watching, and do subscribe so you can see the next installment of my favorite Pokemon types.